Then there was Nimai Ramanuja Das. He was a psychic, mystic and Ayurvedic doctor in the Ramanuja Sampradaya. And he saw Gurudeva and he touched him and he said, there's nothing wrong with him, but if Krishna does not take him, right, if he stays, if Krishna doesn't take him, you will see him become a great preacher, a great sadhu and a charya. And this Narayan Ramanuja Das was a psychic, mystic, astrologer, etc. And devotees were there. They took Guru Maharaj to him, and that's what he said. They were witnesses. Enough to change the course of ISKCON's, no offence, trajectory in a backward fashion. Could have sent it forward, propelled it forward. But again, and in the room that Gurudeva was manifesting all these symptoms of bhava and prema and samadhi, etc., etc., that room is now the cashier's office in Mayapur. Should have been kept as a shrine or something, right? Isn't it? So, so there was many that saw Guru Maharaj and saw that it was not normal. And then Lagudi said to me, because Lagudi looked after Guru Maharaj for 3 or 4 months, and he was there, he was the main man. The others were coming and going, whatever they're, David and there was some others, and the doctors were coming and going, people were coming over, but Lagudi was there all the time, and he said that one day, he was looking at Guru Maharaj's body and it was just changing colour. He said red, green, orange, purple, so many colours just changing. So you can read about the change of colour in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami, and in page 227 and onwards, in the English paraphrase of that same book, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, you can read about the change of colour, and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, when you see that red colour, which is quoting Rupa Goswami, he says that's very rare. That doesn't happen often. I mean, I don't know, have you met someone that this has happened to? You know someone this has happened to? I don't think so. So in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, after A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada left, we had a Mahabhagavat Paramahamsa Sadhu Vaishnava. I won't go any further. So then the next book we did was In the Association of Pure Devotees. This is packed full of quotes from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Baladev Mitra Prasad Vishwanath, Chakravarti Thakur, and our beloved Gurudeva. A lot of quotes all about how you need the association of, in the Association of Pure Devotees, the association of living sadhus. And when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is asked, and I'll put the quote in here, and all the quotes have been checked to the conversations, the tapes and everything. And they said, Prabhupada, is it enough to just give your book and your prasad to someone and that's enough? Prabhupada says, not enough. Must be personal association as well. From this book, there are 4 chapters. One is a brief understanding of Samudrika, Vastu, Shilpa and Sthapatya Veda, right? And then there was 3 interviews with the Acharya from Sri Rangam, his secretary, disciple Badri Narayan Ramanuja Das, the Brahmin, and the Shilpi, Professor B.C. Mahanti. From this book was born this book. I thought I'd take out the juice. And this book is called The Acharya, the Brahmin and the Shilpi. And I had devotees stopping me in the street telling me they'd read it and how far out it was. Because this just tells you about, from this book, what the Acharya from Sri Rangam said about Gurudeva, what the Brahmin from Sri Rangam said about Gurudeva, what the Shilpi, one of the most prominent deity makers in Orissa, in India, said about Gurudeva, because they knew the ancient sciences, right? Sthapatya Veda, Shilpa Shastra, Vastu Shastra, Samudrika, Right? Panchadurga Panchasuksma Saptarakta Sadgunataha Trirasva Pritugambiro Dratrim Salakshano Mahan. This is from the Samudrika. There are 32 bodily symptoms of a great personality. 5 of his bodily parts are large, 5 fine, 7 reddish, 6 raised, 3 small, 3 broad, and 3 grave. If you meet someone like that, because we can't see the symptoms, but if you can meet someone like that, you've got to fall at their feet. You don't put them in a room and lock the door, hide them, get them out the way. So this verse, Panchadurga Panchasuksma Saptarakta Sadgunataha, is quoted by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavatam. And that same verse is quoted in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Then the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada that he wrote on this verse in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has used that commentary in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in his commentary on the same verse. And it all ends up as this verse is from the Samudrika. So the first chapter is the importance of the correct vibration, and it's all about these ancient Vedic sciences that are becoming marginalised, etc. Then the next one is the Brahman from Sri Rangam. And he talks, and I spoke about this on Thursday, how he met Gurudeva and how glorious it was. And then the next chapter is the Acharya from Sri Rangam. There he is, in all his glory. He lived very simply, had few possessions. And then B.C. Mahanti, the deity maker. The Shilpi. I think we've got a picture of him here. There he is. B.C. Mahanti is receiving an award for one of his pieces of art. So what I didn't say on Thursday was one other thing that the Acharya from Sri Rangam said, or maybe I did say it. I did say it, didn't I? The birthmarks on the body of Gurudeva represented all the different avatars. Kurma, Varaha, Matsya, etc. So this was this book, and I'll read the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I'll read the commentary about the Samudrika verse. It says, the 5 large parts of the nose, arms, chin, eyes and knees. Right? The 5 fine parts of the skin, fingertips, teeth, hair on the body and hair on the head. The 7 reddish parts of the eyes, soles, palms, palate, nails and upper and lower lips. Guru Maharaj's hands were very reddish and underneath his feet were very red. Notice that? Jagadish? Yep, no? Yep. The 6 raised parts of the chest, shoulders, nails, nose, waist and mouth. The 3 small parts of the neck, thighs and male organ. The 3 broad parts are the waist, forehead and chest. The 3 grave parts are the navel, voice and the existence. Altogether, there are 32 symptoms of a great personality. This is a quotation from the Samudrika. Not many know the Samudrika. So again, it proves that Gurudeva's Mahabhagavat. That's what it proves. So all the naysayers, if you want to discuss with me, I suggest you read all these books first and learn it, and then we'll discuss, because otherwise, how can we discuss? Then, just as an added extra, we did this one. This is the Exalted Bhakta Bhagavata, and it's just a brief on all Gurudeva's life and glories. There's a nice picture of Krishnadas Babaji in here somewhere. Oh, there was, I saw it. There he is, Krishnadas Babaji. He was 80 years old. He would jump higher than anyone, sing louder than anyone. He was pretty amazing. Mahabhagavat, Niskinchana, Paramahamsa, Krishnadas Babaji. So then, after that book, we decided to do 108 transcendental glories, splendours of Gurudeva. Some from these books and some never explained before. Right? And then I did a third book in this series. Notice they've got the same cover. There's another one, a blue book. It's called The Search for the Self-Realised Soul. And again, it has the glories of Gurudeva in it. And now, if you go on Amazon, we've just released the life story, the new version. It's the revised, enlarged edition. And Volume 1, Part 1 is on there. Volume 1, Part 2 is coming. And then there'll be Volume 3, Part 1, and Volume 3, Part 2, etc. And they're written, and we're just going through the editing and proofing stage. So, I just want to say a few things about Gurudeva's life now, if that's okay. So as I said, Gurudeva was born on the 2nd of September 1929. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born on the 2nd September 1838. 91 years difference. One astrologer said, is Bhaktivinoda Thakur come again? Now, I personally cannot see a problem if someone is a real sadhu, real Vaishnava, real Maharaja. I can't see the point in the problem in glorifying him. We wouldn't want to stop that, would we? I can't see that one. So number 2 is the second of the 108. In 1929, an astrologer came to Gaura-Giri. And at that time, Gurudeva was there as a baby, wrapped in cloth, like a baby's wrapped up. And his mother was there, and she took him to the astrologer and said, "What is the history of my son?" And he said, "Your son is from the eternal abode of the Lord, Nityadharma. And he has only come here to do one thing, to present the message of the Supreme Lord and deliver the fallen condition." So Guru Maharaj didn't know this because he was just a baby, but all the relatives knew, but he didn't know it. But that's what the astrologer said, and the older members of the family knew it. Dabani Giri knew, Ganesham knew, the mother and father knew, Dinabandhu Giri, who was the last surviving son of Bori Bandhu Giri, who was the great illustrious grandfather of our Gurudev. So point number 3, not just born in any Vaishnava family, the greatest Kirtaniya family in Orissa. They are mystics, renunciants, Vaishnavas, and great Kirtaniyas. Very great Kirtaniyas. Number 4, the famous deity Gopal Ju is the presiding deity at the Gaura-Giri village, which is the village of Guru Maharaj's mother's family. And that family is very famous in Orissa. The deity is very famous. The village is very famous. And the village is considered to be Gupta Vrindavan, hidden Vrindavan. And that deity is worshipped to this day. And Gurudeva used to say, when I meditate, I always see that deity always. I see that deity always. See, the problem we have is, and this is because we're conditioned souls, and no offence to anyone, it's sort of, in this day and age, envy's there, it's a natural thing, but because one godbrother is more advanced than the others, people get envious. It's just the way it is. Oh, look at what a good class he gives. Look how many slokas he knows Sanskrit. Oh, look at that, he's a Maharaja. Dig a hole and bury him. Because we are envious and we want to promote ourselves, but we don't want to promote sadhu. Why should he be guru? I'll be guru. Don't be his disciple, be my disciple. So envy comes in. So point 5, there's been a constant link since the 1700s between, or 1600s, between the king of Puri and the Gauragiri village and the Kirtanias there. And those kings in Puri coming in the line of Maharaj Prataparudra. So the current king of Puri is Gajapati Maharaj Dibya Singh Dev. And he would visit Gurudeva regularly, right? And he would pay full dandavats to Gurudeva. And the king of Puri is not supposed to pay his obeisances to anyone, any sadhu, for some reason. So the people of Puri, they put up a petition against the king, to the king, and they said, you know, it's not very good because you're paying obeisances to this sadhu, Gour Govinda Swami, but you're not actually supposed to do that. And he said, yeah, but I can't help it. When I see him, he just reminds me of Jagannath, and I have to pay full dandavats.
I heard it said he's a moving Jagannath.
It's a moving Jagannath, thank you.
He didn't even pay obeisances to his own guru.
Say that again?
He would never pay obeisances to his own
The
guru.
king of Puri
Yeah.
didn't pay his obeisances to his own guru, but he pays his obeisances to Gour Govinda Swami because he considered him to be the moving Jagannath. You see, there's another example of someone, the king of Puri is a very pious person. 1 year, Baladev didn't move. Remember that story? He wouldn't move off the altar, and they got elephants, and they got bullocks, and they pull them with ropes, and they got horses, and the Pandits couldn't move him. Someone said, get the king of Puri, and the Pandit said, he's a nobody, why we get the king of Puri? They didn't think he's very important. So then they got him, and he just touched the body of Baladev, and they lifted him up. So that person paid full dandavats to His Divine Grace Srila Gour Govinda Swami. There's someone else who could see he was not of this world. The moving Jagannath. I mean, you know, how much evidence do we have to put up so that the naysayers get it in here that after A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in the ISKCON branch of Mahaprabhu's mission, there was another Mahābhagavat. No, it's better we all form groups and fight. That's better, isn't it? That's what we do in Kali Yuga, right? That's the best thing to do. Don't go to a Mahābhagavat. Especially in your Sangha, don't go. Just form groups and fight. It's ridiculous. So then, number 7, there is an open invitation from the king of Puri since the 1700s to now to the Gauragiri Kirtaniyas to come and perform kirtan for Jagannath. And minimum they have to come once a year, minimum. But once a year is not enough. And that is written in the Madala Panji, the register of the king of Puri. It's going to take me a week to get through this. Anyway, number 8, he never broke the principles of Vedic culture. Gurudeva didn't want to get married. He didn't want to. That was not that was not on his agenda at all. That was not in his program. The program was, from 9 years old, take sannyas and preach the mission of Mahaprabhu. That was the understanding. That was what he wanted to do from a young boy. But his mother complained, and his mother forced him. His uncle spoke to him on behalf of his mother, and he really respected his uncle Gopinath Giri, who was a great kirtaniya, a great devotee, he said, and he just said, okay, I'll do it. But he didn't want to do it. And Dobani Dave Giri said, at the wedding, everyone was, you know, in a jolly mood, and Guru Maharaj was just sitting there, wondering, what do I do next? He just...
And that's when he met his wife for the first time.
Yeah, he met his wife for the first time at the thing. He said, it's on a lecture, you hear it. He said, I lifted the veil, and there she was. I didn't know anything about her, I'd never seen her, nothing. But in the Bhavishya Purana it is said, the wife, the family members of the pure Sadhu Vaishnava Mahajan, they have to be respected. You know, have to be respected. So he never broke the principles of Vedic culture in his whole life. There was no girlfriends and going to the disco. There was none of that stuff, you know, hippie colonies and all that sort of stuff. There's none of that. He was never attached to the mod cons of this world. He was a kinchana. He didn't care about, well, when Guru Maharaj was young, there was only radios, right? And TV came in quite a while after, right? 1940s or 50s. So there was radio and there was movies, but he was not interested at all. From his childhood onwards, he was trained in Krishna consciousness by his exalted family members. His uncles taught him kirtan. His father taught him the Bhagavatam. His grandfather taught him how to chant. And his uncles at Gaudiya taught him the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So by the time he was 16, he was fully fluent in all these literatures. Now this is number 11. I'm going to stop soon because Jagadish is going to speak. And then I'll carry on tomorrow night, okay, Jagadish?
Yeah. No, you carry on. I'm only going to read for like 10, 15 minutes.
He was taught to chant the holy name from the age of 2 by his esteemed grandfather, Bori Bandugiri, who was a pure Vaisnava and famous Kirtaniya. From 2, he was being taught to chant. Now, everyone that's here tonight, and everyone that's looking, and everyone that's going to look, what were you doing at 2 years old? Especially, I won't go any further. He was taught the Srimad Bhagavatam by his father, Ishvara Manik. When I asked Gurudeva, I said, Gurudeva, what was your father's name? He said, Ishvara Manik Das. I said, no. So his father taught him the Bhagavatam from 6 to the age of 11. Yeah. They went through it 6 times, the whole Bhagavatam. And then, from the age of 8, he was accompanying his uncles doing kirtan in the different villages. And sometimes he would sneak out and do the 24-hour kirtan. Astapahara kirtan, 24 hours, non-stop, whole day kirtan. Can you imagine it? They didn't stop. Then from the age of 12 to 16, he was taught the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by his uncles from Gaudiya, Gopinath Giri, Jagannath Giri. And the one story that got his mind, that really stuck in his mind, was Madhavendra Puri, and the story how Krishna brought the pot of kheer, right? Sweet rice,
yeah? Yeah.
Stole the pot of sweet rice from the temple, brought it, and gave it to his dear devotee. And Guru Maharaj said when he was a young boy, he was just thinking, this Madhavendra Puri, he must be a great devotee. I want to be like him. I want to be a sannyasi, I want Krishna to come. You know, that's how he was thinking. I mean, at 12, what were we doing? Thinking of Krishna and the pot of sweet rice and Madhavendra Puri. You see, it doesn't matter what an Acharya does, right? It's all very wonderful, but then another Acharya comes and does something very wonderful again. When we try to block that glories of that particular Acharya, we're committing an offence. Big offence. So number 15, he lived in the famous village of Gaudiya from 12 years of age and learned kirtan and Sanskrit there and excelled in Sanskrit. And he learned kirtan. So by the time he had finished high school, he'd memorised the whole Gita. He chanted Hare Krishna, of course. He knew how to do kirtan and bhajan. He'd studied the Bhagavatam and he'd studied the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was a Sanskrit scholar. Excelled in Sanskrit by the time he was 16. And he was preaching the glories of Mahaprabhu and Krishna and the Bhagavatam. And there was no offence, some people don't like it when I say this, but there was no International Society of Krishna Consciousness, right? He was there with his uncles, his grandfather, his father, and the Kirtaniyas, and he was studying and doing kirtan. And the deities, and he was totally immersed in it. His cousin Daibani Daigiri said, he just never did anything wrong, she said. As a child, he just never did anything wrong. I remember once she came to see Guru Maharaj. I think Guru Maharaj was giving a bit of a talk, maybe a dance or something, and she started talking to him, and he said, well, you know, I'm talking, and she said, yeah, what do you mean? When you were a baby, I used to bounce you on your knee, now I'm not allowed to talk to you. Guru Maharaj cracked up, he thought that was pretty funny. He told us in English what she said, you know. And she could eat, like, she was that big, and she could eat that much prasadam, you know. I mean, I don't know where she put it, isn't it? She could just out-eat all of us. She was only that big.
Really fired up, maybe.
Oh, fired up. I mean, she was pumped. She was like a sadhu, you know.
And she loved Gurudeva.
Oh, yeah. He was like, wow, for her. He was the greatest thing that ever happened. So now, when Gurudeva left high school, he got a job teaching as a teacher's aide. But in the nights, what he would do is he would study the Shastra and make notes. His whole life was just studying and making notes, right? So he studied the 4 Vedas, the 108 Upanishads, the 18 Puranas, which includes the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, which includes the Gita and the Ramayana. And he would stay up, and I did an interview with Swami Gour, who became Swami Gour Maharaj. And Swami Gour, he wouldn't let his name be changed. You know, when you take something else, they change your name. He said, no, Gurudeva gave me Swami Gour, so it has to be Swami Gour Maharaj, or it's not Maharaj. So they gave him the name, okay, it's Swami Gour Swami. He said, thank you. He wouldn't change his name. So Swami Gour, I did an interview with him, and he told me, he said that he used to go and see Gurudeva, and sometimes he'd stay there with him, and Gurudeva would 9:30, 10 o'clock, when everyone's gone to bed, he'd start studying the Shastra. Sometimes he's up till 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. Then he'd go to bed and wake up 4:30, have Tulsi Aarti, do kirtan with all the kids, then he'd go off to work. He said, I saw it with my own eyes, Swami said. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't doing that at that age. It's a different life, you know. It's a different life. What was Gurudeva being trained for? From the day one, he was chanting Hare Krishna, studying the Gita, Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kirtan, Bhajan, you know, what was he being trained for? He was not a conditioned soul joining a movement, trying to control his senses and snicker on beads. Oh, and I'll be a guru. It's none of that. He was not a conditioned soul. He was not someone who was, you know, trying to make disciples so that he could get money out of them. Very serious thing.